You heard it right, this is everything you need to know about Guts and Blackpowder. From sword damages to settings, from maps to franks, everything about G&B is in this video. If at all you found this guide useful, be sure to drop a like, but without any further ado, enjoy the video. So Guts and Blackpowder is a Napoleonic era based game that introduces zombies. There's a variety of different zombies including the Zapper, Shambler, Igniter, Runner, Bomber, and Viral. You as a team have to navigate a campaign-like map in order to reach the end, surviving, killing enemies, and saving teammates along the way. You'll be rewarded with the in-game currency of francs, which can be used to purchase guns, melees, and utilities. This in-game currency cannot be purchased, meaning in order to get more, you have to grind the game. There's a lot of features G&B covers, for example, a first person and third person, and in-depth settings allowing better performance or seeing ragdolls, even going as far for allowing a private server with listed commands. Now, the basics out the way, let's move on to how to actually play the game. Allowing multiple devices on a variety of different platforms, Guts and Blackpowder allows the player to play on PlayStation, mobile, Xbox, and PC, meaning you can always play whether you're on the go or not. For this guide, I'm going to be illustrating everything on PC. The basics of WASD is to move around, left click is to attack, right click is to aim, and this is where the uniqueness comes into play. G&B has a built-in callout system by holding down the V key, and combined with the different regiments and nations within the game, will have different sounding callout voice lines. Now, for the younger generation, you might think that's easy work, but honestly it really is. Well done, Fez. Hats off to you. Okay, so you know how to move, you know how to attack, but what do you do with this information? Well, let's get to know the game a bit. As soon as you enter the game, also you have to click skip loading. Fez, please for all this holy fix this. You're presented with the menu, selecting either join match, find server, shop, inventory, settings, credits. Join match will put you into the match you are currently in, with the default class being inventory. Next being the find server, you're brought to a section where you can join a random voice chat game where they specialize in, well, voice chat, or hardcore, where the game is harder in literally every way, but your reward is greater. And finally, the browse section. I won't be going over the create server, as this is different from your private server. Entering into the browse section, you'll be presented with a variety of different servers, illustrated with the map. If it's a campaign map or an endless map, the region, the amount of players, the latency, and whether it's a PC, console, or mobile. Once selecting this, it's presented with all the maps that'll be present for vote selection and all the other details I'm not going to bother explaining because they're basically irrelevant. Anyways, click join server and you join the server. Simple. Going back, you also have the choice to search for a server, refresh the servers, filter the servers, or create them. The shop and inventory will be covered more in depth later on. However, for the settings, you can quite literally customize everything, from blood to textures, ragdolls to name tags. The choice is endless. And then credits is literally just who made the game and who contributed, so yeah, read that I guess. Anyway, so you click to load up a map and find out what you think. I'm gonna sit here and talk you through every objective about every map. Hell no. After loading into a match by pressing N, you can choose from these nations with their different regiments. Again, more on that later. And choose your weapons and utilities via this loadout button here. All of this will be discussed in more detail future down the line. Anyways, your objective will be illustrated above you, and pressing C will display that objective again. The further you progress, the newer the objective. However, say you die randomly. Well, you'll respawn at a checkpoint. However, your teammates must reach that checkpoint in order for you to respawn. Once respawning, you'll be deducted some francs if you finish. If you die before the ending, you'll still be rewarded some sort of francs, but we'll discuss that later. Now the classes. I'm going to start off with the infantry class. The infantry class, also known as the private, will have one firearm and one melee, pretty basic. These so-called starter items will be the musket and the saber. These two items come for free with this class and definitely packs a punch. By pressing the B key with your musket equipped, you can toggle between the firearm or the bayonet of the weapon, offering melee damage output instead of projectile damage output. Next we have the officer. Having the starter pistol as well as the saber can provide a charge-like boost to surrounding players, which provides a massive damage boost for 8 seconds. Now you'll be able to see how far away you are from being able to charge as by looking in the bottom right. As you can see, there is a little meter bar that can be filled via kills. By killing enemies, this meter will increase, and once full, by equipping your melee and pressing the Q key, you'll activate the boost to your surrounding teammates. However, if any infantry class with the lance, the musket, or the heavy saber around, they can perform an insta-kill during the said charge, but this will be discussed later. Moving on, we have the Seaman class. It specializes in destructive damage output and has the most damage dealing weapons in the game, having the blunderbuss, which is the base start weapon of the Seaman, acting like a shotgun, with a large pellet count and a decent range. Next being the Navy pistol, giving the ability to pistol whip by pressing X, allowing the player to stun one enemy for a few seconds. Also, in a sense, acting like a shotgun pistol. Now, this has poor range, but has great damage output, costing 600 franc. And finally, we have the Notgun, giving off astonishing damage output with a 7-barrel capacity. It's basically a musket with 7 barrels without the bayonet. Just to clarify, I've done a full guide on each of these classes, and I'll have a link to all of them in the description. Next, we have the Musician, being able to play music that provides buffs to the surrounding players. The drum is for boosting swing rate, the fife is for boosting reload speed, and the bugle, much like the officer, has a meter that needs to be filled in order to use, which gives a 2 times damage boost for 20 seconds. Also, please note that both the fife and the drum need to be continually clicked with the tempo of the metronome. If that makes no sense whatsoever, don't worry, it didn't for me either. Finally, we have the Sapper, allowing the ability to deploy a barricade, repair a barricade, deploy stakes to damage enemies, and caltropes to slow enemies down. They have an axe to do a lot of damage, use a pickaxe for more singular as opposed to crowd control damage, and a shovel to give your barricade that extra bit of integrity. Now, moving on to the 2 support-based classes, we have the Medic and the Priest. The Medic is, well, a medic. It heals players, it can carry a box of bandages that can only be deployed from using a full meter of your supplies in order to use for your teammates. Okay, I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. The Medic relies on their melee to damage or kill enemies to get supplies. They use these supplies to heal teammates by selecting your bandage option. You can prompt to heal a player. When they accept, you'll be put into an animation that, if not fully done, will cause you to heal them again. And the final class, well, for now, is the Priest, which is locked behind a badge. This badge has these requirements that are listed on screen. They are most certainly not easy, but it has to be done nonetheless. They have a crucifix that stuns enemies for 8 seconds and has a pretty weak stake for their melee. This is the only class that doesn't have a strong melee, but an incredibly strong utility. As well as this, they come prepared with a blessing book that allows the priests to bless the teammates who are infected. Just quickly discuss the infection. When a player is slashed or bitten, they'll get infected, meaning to get rid of infection, you must have a priest for it. If you become fully infected, you'll become a viral or a zapper, depending on your class. So the weapons. Statistics of the weapons will not be detailed in this video, only briefly talked over. That in mind, here they are. Some weapons within the game need to be purchased and will have a price tag for the amount it costs. This does mean the weapon can somewhat be better, however some weapons are for certain classes. For example, if you wanted to have the Notgun, you can only have it for the Seaman class. If you wanted the Hand Axe, you can only have it for the Infantry and Seaman class. There'll be a list on screen illustrating what items, weapons, etc. can be used for what class on screen. Pause the video if any of that information helps at all. Now, certain weapons can have certain special abilities. I don't mean the ability to fire lasers, I mean something as small as stunning the enemies or staggering them. Take the Horse Artillery Pistol, or HAP for short. For example, it's got 2 barrels, one really good one and one really bad. However, combine this with reload cancelling and you got yourself a hell of a weapon. Or take the Shovel. As opposed to pressing F to stun for the pickaxe and axe, you can stun them momentarily and occasionally just by attacking them from the downswing. Yes, you heard that right, downswing. Guts Blackpowder gives the player a variety of different swing locks when using a melee from side to side, up and down. You can opt to lock this swing with the T key, or you can unlock it with the same key for variety swing. Not only this, but as discussed previously, the musket, lance and heavy saber can be used as an insta-kill for a few seconds. What I mean by this is if an officer is using his charge, by having any 3 of these weapons equipped, you'll be put into a charge state where you'll run and be able to insta-kill enemies within this time frame. Introducing the shop. This in-game feature allows the player to get newer and unique weapons for their disposal. Now, not every weapon will be easily obtained. Some will cost 100 francs, others will cost 10,000. Now, yes, this takes some time to get and you may not understand how to easily obtain a large amount of francs, so I'll post a link here to make your lives easier. Now, you've bought your weapon of choice but have no clue how to select it. Well, you remember the menu and there being an infantry option underneath the shop icon? Select this and you'll be brought to a whole new screen, which is your character. Look at this handsome fella. Beneath the character will be 3 icons. Overview, which you can use to customize your character, looks with hair, color, blemishes, cosmetics, etc. Just purchase them here if you have to. Next being nations, where you can see what your character will look like in every nation and or regiment. And finally, weapons. Underneath this text will be the class icons. By simply selecting any of the class icons, you'll be presented with different tabs known as equipment. Within this, you can choose your primary, secondary and utility. Simply click on one of the boxes, select the items you wish to use and click return. You'll know when it's done correctly, as a little prompt text will appear illustrating you've successfully equipped your items. However, pressing the return button and going back into the shop section, you'll see there's another tab known as cosmetics. These cost actual Robux, however they do make your character look a lot more nifty. Simply select the tab and browse between all of these options. You'll more than likely have to back out the game for this to work, or you can click the refresh icon down at the bottom of the inventory segment. Now, you know how to play but you don't like the way you look? Well, tough. I'm kidding. Simply load up your game and press the N key. This will bring up an entirely new tab illustrating loads of information. Now, to put it simply, every map will have a designated nation and regiment to go with it. For example, San Sebastian has the British, the French and the Portuguese. These can all be found by simply looking at the flags. By simply clicking on any of these flags, you'll be shown the same 5 classes with different uniforms. Don't like the uniform they are currently wearing? Simply hover over the larger images above the flags like so and select them. Once you have found one you like, you can simply press select and back out. Some nations will have 3 different regiments to choose from: Specialist, Navy and Cavalry. Now, I won't be discussing the Cavalry tab in this section as it's got a few hidden details. However, selecting the Specialist tab will allow you to select the Priest or the Surgeon, depending on your choice. Now, both of these are unique to each nation, as some do not have Priest or a Surgeon. Now, moving on to the Navy section, this is the exact same as the original nation, however the clothing is different and some classes will also be unavailable. Some regiments will also have to be purchased in order to use them. Now, there's going to be some information listed on screen being the nations that have Navy and Cavalry, the nations which only have Navy or Cavalry, the nations which don't have either, the nations which have Specialists, the nations that don't have Specialists, and finally the different regiments there, every nation. My editor is going to hate me. Well, there's also a third option on the far right, labelled hard. This does what it says on the tin. It's a harder version of the game that can only be accessed after playing for a bit. Once you are able to enter hardcore server, be at the utmost of ready, as your skills will be tested, enemies have more health, your weapons deal less damage, your chances of survival is slim, everything is harder. Although, as well as this, the francs earn is greater. Now, I'm not good at math, but by a very, very rough estimate, it looks like francs increases by 25%. However, with some cases, it increases more. For example, healing a player once will be rewarding you 4 francs instead of 2. Now, I've already made a full video detailing the franc input and how much you earn from every map already, so I'll leave a link for it here and in the description. As mentioned previously, there's also the infection that has been upgraded drastically, meaning if you are bitten, scratched, etc., your infection rate increases significantly. I'm unsure how the hell I'm meant to check the increase in percentage, although I'm given a rough guess of 50%. Okay, moving on to the hurdle of the game, the zombies. There are 3 different variants of these zombies. The ones you see on normal difficulty, these are your average enemies who you'll encounter 24/7. The hardcore enemies, these are the exact same enemies, however they have increased health, damage and infection. Therefore, be highly aware of your surroundings. And finally, the private server. Now, I'm not going to go through everything that you can do within the private server, but you can summon enemies and some that aren't in game yet. If you do /summon crawler 1, it will summon a legless zombie that once latches onto you will drain your health slightly but significantly increase your infection. But anyways, these aren't in the full game yet. Some zombies are also incredibly weak, meaning you'd have to add some commands in order to change the health and damage output to your liking. On screen now will be a list of just the stats of enemies in normal, because this video is long as f. Every map has an objective, whether it be surviving, blowing up barrels, etc. However, every campaign map has a certain objective to every checkpoint. It could be something as basic as holding off a horde or simply blowing up a barrel. Take San Sebastian for example, it has many different objective checkpoints that tells the player to perform a certain action. They're certainly basic and they are not difficult, however some of them require more than one person. Here you have to lower the platform to lift a hay bale on top of the platform. If it's just you, this is impossible, because this checkpoint is 2-player minimum. Once lowering the platform, you need to press E next to the hay bale to lift it onto the platform. The problem is, the moment you get down to the hay bale, you have no way of getting back up, meaning you'd have to rely on someone above to turn the capstan to bring the hay bale and the player up. Now, as well as checkpoints, you have respawn checkpoints. These respawn checkpoints vary between maps. Some of them won't allow you to respawn till the end of the map, and others you respawn every few meters. On screen will be the list of the maps, how many respawn checkpoints there are, and where they are located. Now, as well as having a campaign option, there's also the option to play endless. These are much smaller maps that are more of a survive for however long map. They have certain advantages like large open scale areas or high above ground sections. Either way, use them to your advantage. Every wave you will respawn, and as you can imagine, as the waves get on, the difficulty increases. This also applies with hardcore. Wave 1 to 7 will usually consist of normal zombies, however wave 7 to 20 varies for zappers, runners and normals. Past wave 20 is when you'll get igniters with a variety of spawn of all the other zombies. Now this is only from what I tested, so don't quote me on it. It varies with the amount of players and can also vary if you are playing solo. Every 5th wave is when you'll earn a certain amount of francs, however if you die during any of these waves in between, you'll lose some sort of francs. Once again, I've done a video on this, so just check the description for further details.
ZGP, you bumbling idiot. The endless maps are the slowest, most boring maps in the game. All you do is just stand around there doing nothing for the first 20 waves, and then by that point, either half the server left to play something fun, they all died because they've got igniters spawn in. I mean really, standing around for a pitiful amount of francs every 10 waves is really so appealing that people will do Call of Duty zombie loops around the hordes and dump 2 hours into one round just for the only kiter in the server to get jumped by a runner they didn't see. The only reason people even play endless is for old guard and to jack up their stats so they can brag on Discord how much time they've wasted.
Now there's also a holdout map called Berezina. Now I'm gonna briefly talk over this because it's one map, like seriously one map for a different game mode. So anyways, Berezina is a cold map. You have a cold debuff where you have to go inside someone to warm up, otherwise your attack speed is low. You have to build a bridge. If you become a sapper, you can build it faster as it takes less time to deploy. Every so often a horde will spawn once the log car leaves to get more wood for you. Roughly around 15 logs will spawn, so you can pick them up, place and build. You repeat the process until the bridge is finished. It can take around 40 minutes to complete. This also varies on hardcore. You finish it, you get francs done. Oh shit, gonna pass out. Within Guts Blackpowder comes various hidden items as well. For example, the delicious leg. You cannot obtain this weapon without completing a hidden achievement by completing the untouchable achievement.
The delicious leg? You're talking about the delicious leg. I'm sorry to interrupt your video, but do you have any idea how stupid and unfunny that weapon is? Like, sure, it was slightly comical when it first was added, but then people just drove the joke into the f***ing ground. It's hard to put into words how annoying I think it's become. And some people act as if it is a status symbol, while completely ignoring the fact that it's brain dead easy to get. Anyway, sorry for interrupting your video. You can continue now.
However, not everything is locked behind a secret. For example, if you wanted to have a flag on your lance, you can simply go over to the cavalry section, select the lancer and equip a lance. Then when you spawn in, you'll be given the lance with a flag at the end. I've done a video on this, but you already know where the link is going to be. This is going to be the last and final part of the video, and also the last time I'm going to speak because I'm going to have an aneurysm. Before you will be gameplay of all the different achievements and how you earn them. I've already done a full in-depth video about this, so if you're still unsure, go watch that. Now please bear in mind, not everything may have been covered, as this video would literally be an hour long. But hey, if you like that, then let me know. Anyways, there's an official wiki as well. The link will be in the description. And finally, thank you all very much for watching. If at all you found this in-depth guide useful, be sure to drop a like. As always, I'll speak to you in the next one. Bye.